Hi there. If you've ever wondered about orbs, what they are, how they act, and whether or not you can see them, stay tuned because I'm going to talk about them in just a second. Hello again, friends and fellow truth seekers. Mike Nicholas here with another episode of the Soul Unleashed podcast, where it's my goal to help you with the questions you might have regarding the awakening of your soul, and particularly to help other left brain types like me ask the right questions in our search for a deeper meaning for life. Ultimately, I want to help you unleash your soul from limiting beliefs and smothering paradigms. So let's get started today. As I mentioned earlier, what we're going to talk about are orbs. And I got started on this, like many things, by reading something. I was reading the book, I've already mentioned this a bunch of times, but Wishes Fulfilled by Dr. Dyer. And he mentions somebody in there named Dr. Klaus Heinemann. And Dr. Klaus and his wife have done a lot of research on orbs. And I went and read some of the things that he had done. I just Googled his name and started to read about it. And then I contacted Dr. Heinemann, sent him an email, and told him a little bit about what I was seeing in terms of the orbs. And he was kind enough to write back to me. And he's given me some additional researches, which I've read. The cool thing is that, man, we're really tracking in terms of what we think the orbs might be. There's a thing he mentioned. There's an article or a interview that he did. It was in 2007, and it was with Linda Moulton Howe, and the title was "Mysterious Orbs: Emanations from a Divine Field." At the end of it, he concludes this. He says, speaking of orbs, this is a truly phenomenal situation in which we're witnessing something that is visiting us and making itself visible in our physical instrument, our cameras, yet coming from a reality that is not ours, that we cannot describe. We have no way of describing the orb reality. All we can say is that the orb reality is not subjected to space and time, unquote. Now, for those of you who may not have listened to my other podcast, orbs, what I'm describing as orbs, are basically circles of light that, in my experience, move across rooms or move around rooms, bump into me, move around me. I've seen hundreds of them. I have over 1,000 videos of these orbs, and I started to capture them purely by accident, unintentionally, on my security cameras. One interesting thing that Dr. Heinemann mentions in the articles I've read, he talks about where the orb phenomenon started. So most of what he has on his website and most of what I've seen across the internet are beautiful pictures of orbs. People that have taken photographs, generally not knowing that when they took the photographs, because they can't see it with their camera, but once they look at the digital image, there are orbs either behind the people or around the people, but they're static images of orbs. And that's awesome. And they're beautiful and they're in color, and some of them have different shapes and geometric patterns in them. In fact, one of the things that Dr. Heinemann does is he goes through a comparison of orbs to crop circles, which is a whole different ballgame, which I won't go into. But if you follow some of the references I put into the show notes, it'll lead you to those kind of cool things. Anyway, the point is that orbs are, in his opinion and mine, something that is not from our reality, that comes from someplace else. And that has certainly been my experience. What he talked about in terms of the history of orbs, he said this is a relatively recent phenomenon, seeing them on camera. Started maybe 20, 25 years ago as digital cameras came into vogue. Before that, he said orbs were captured sometimes with 35 millimeter film or other older cameras, but generally they were not easy to see or faint or dismissed as refractions or refractions on the lens. Now, that still does happen today. He does mention that there are a lot of things that people think are orbs, which are not orbs. And some of you probably have had this experience. I certainly have, where I'm taking a video or a photograph with my iPhone, and the sun is someplace in the picture, either pointing right at my lens or right off to the side or whatever. And there's like this greenish blue dot that kind of appears, and in a lot of cases weirdly moves around the photograph. The first couple times I saw it, I thought it was an orb. I was convinced it was an orb. just the way it was acting. It wouldn't go away. And when I took the picture, it was in the picture. But I've come to understand that that is simply a something that happens in the lens when you take the picture. I don't know what it is, but it's not an orb. Now, Dr. Heinemann does, and his wife do make the argument that maybe, just because it's not an orb, the fact that it's there and appearing in a certain place might have meaning to you personally, but that appearance itself is not something that is paranormal. But what is paranormal are the orbs I believe I'm seeing and that come with me when I travel. There's just a few things. I was just going to go through 5 things that I see with orbs. And if your experience is anything like mine, you can do this. You can see orbs. I believe everybody has the ability to do this. I don't think I'm special in any way. I think I'm special only in the sense that our son, who's deceased, kind of brought these to my attention. But I believe anybody can see them. I know, for example, my sister, now she also has some other gifts, but my sister is able to see them. Anyway, these are simple security cameras. Amazon Blink, they use infrared light, and whatever the light frequency is, that IR light that this camera uses, it picks up the orbs. Dr. Heinemann and his wife do say that digital cameras, when a digital camera catches an orb, that particular orb has to use a lot more energy to show up on a digital camera image than it does in a video, because when IR light picks it up, it's just usually gray or white because IR has no color, and so it looks just kind of dull or washed out. But here are the 5 things. 1, the orbs move. So it's video, obviously, but in the still pictures you see, they all look very static. In a video, these babies move, and they move at different speeds. They move at different directions. Some blink, some do not. Some are bright, some are dim. Some are almost translucent and just kind of like move. I've seen really large ones, like, they appear to be 3 or 4 feet across, and they just move very slowly across the wall behind me. Anyway, if you're not freaked out by it, it's pretty cool. But so that's the first thing is they do move. They're always moving. I've never seen a static orb on a video that I've captured. The second thing is, and this is really important, is the orbs are not present, in my experience, unless there is a living presence, either in the room or very nearby the room. I've done a number of tests on this. If you listen to some of my earlier podcasts, you've heard me talk about this, but they don't appear unless there's people. And it's happened to me by accident where people have walked into my house. I had some folks that took care of plants in our home, for example, and my security alarm triggered when the orbs showed up. I didn't know why they went off, why the camera went off. And then I realized through another camera that these folks were watering the plants in the house. And I thought, man, those are my orbs. What are they doing? So I believe we all have this presence around us, these orbs that appear with us. But in any case, I've never seen the orbs appear without people being nearby. In one case, I had a security camera on in a room where the orbs appear, and my grandchildren saw the camera, and they wanted to fool around and bounce around and make fun of me, and so they asked me to turn the camera on, and so they could then see themselves a few minutes later on the camera. I said sure, so I turned it on, and they went upstairs in the room, and they started bouncing around in the bed, and I was watching them, and as I looked at it, the orbs started appearing around them, and the orbs kind of, the behavior of the orbs kind of reflected their personalities. Like the orbs were happy and bouncing around and doing circles, and it really cracked me up. And so I do believe that the orbs are like they have personalities, but that's number 2. They're only present when there's a living presence nearby. Third thing is, I have been able to play with them. Orbs can be playful. So a couple times if I put my hands up, they'll give me a high five. Not a couple times. They've done it a bunch of times. They also tend to get a little more active if I put my hand up and when I'm in the same room. Now, remember, I'm looking at these orbs through my phone, through the security camera. So the cool thing is, obviously, I can sit there and look at myself through my own camera. But if I put my hand up, sometimes they'll go through it like a high five. What's really freaked me out sometimes, however, is they'll also come out of my palm of my hand, which is really kind of weird. But they are playful. Fourth thing is that they travel with us. So this is another cool thing. I have a little portable camera. I take it with us. If I set it up someplace, they'll usually appear. I go through a little process where I pray or meditate for a few minutes and then invite them to join us, and then they'll come and join us. So those are the four top things. The fifth thing I would say, which is a negative, is that I've been unable to duplicate or capture the same orbs with multiple cameras. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. One is, when you're using security cameras, you can only have one phone attached to one camera. So I've tried multiple cameras on multiple phones, and I just haven't been able to coordinate it enough. So I also bought one of those fancy separate IR digital cameras from a place called Ghost Stoppers, Ghost Hunters, I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work. I mean, it took video of the same room, the same time that I was looking at it with my security camera, and orbs were bouncing all over the room, and this silly Ghost Hunter thing picked up nothing. So my confidence, I guess, or belief in the veracity of ghost hunters and their tools is a little bit limited, just based upon my own little personal experience. So those are the 5 things. But I think the main thing, that they move, that they're not present unless there's a living presence, that they travel. Those are the main things that I've really come to love about orbs and being able to see them. I think you can do it too. I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the Amazon Blink camera that I use. I've tried multiple Amazon cameras. They all work. I see orbs with all of them, but the one I think is best is the smaller indoor one, and I'll put a link to that so you can see what camera I use. And if you want to get in touch with me and just talk about the orbs or what you're trying to do, please feel free to reach out, mike@mikenicholas.com. Whatever you do, don't give me a rating. This podcast is supposed to be a big secret, so don't rate or review my podcast, but you're welcome to reach out to me, mike@mikenicholas.com, or my website, mikenicholas.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.